Final Fantasy? Why is that a thing?
That's what a thing.
Why is like Japanese RPGs are always like, you know, belts and have you ever noticed that? Like it's like their clothes don't make sense and they're not very practical. Because I see it sometimes with D&D with the people that I play with sometimes. Like, you know, I play with like random people. But every once in a while you'll get like that like really weeaboo guy, you know, that's like yes, my character has a buster sword and belts all over his body and a giant Saiyan anime hair.
Yeah.
And, like, it's like, where are you coming from, man? Could you imagine, like, Cloud Strife or Sephiroth in, like Tolkien?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know how off-putting that would be?
It is weird to think about. Yeah.
That'd be like having, like, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and then someone's just like, mayonnaise! Like, what?
That's a very weird aesthetic shift from like, you know, someone makes Legolas and then someone else makes fucking Cloud.
It's happened to me though. It's happened to me like multiple times. People will make anime characters in their games or in my games, and then I have to. Now I feel like I have to deal with it. Like,
well, now I have to kill you.
I have to deal with like everybody else is like, you know, some like Arthurian legend or like, you know, I'm playing with someone who's like literally just playing William Wallace, but then for them it's always just like, you know, anime style and then zoom in on my eyes and like like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's totally a different genre of things.
Yeah. I think that also goes back to what we're going to talk about later with the setting the expectations and
of
the tone and everything. Yeah, we'll bring that up.
Okay.
Yeah, remember to bring that up because that's something interesting. Yeah, it's like you know, it reminds. I'll save it for later. Yeah,
we can talk about it now. We're recording anyway.
Well, we have to do our intro this time and not like
we'll
introduce ourselves.
We'll do an actual intro.
Half an hour into the podcast.
If it'll make you,
it'll make me happy.
Did you listen to our last podcast too? Huh? Did you? You didn't listen to it?
Parts of it.
Oh. I mean, we don't have to listen to... Sorry, we don't have to listen to all of them, I guess, but, like, it does kind of help, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
A little bit. It helps me. I feel like I have to because I edit them.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't catch everything, obviously. I'm sure that, you know, like, there's some, like, ghost of audio teachers past that's just like, you know, what are you doing, Tyler? Look, you just broke levels there again, and you're not gonna clean it up? Spotty! Oh, shitty! But, you know, I do have to go through it because if there's any, like, weird anomaly or, like, a weird click kind of thing that, like, is too jarring, then I have to. So I have to go through these episodes with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
That's what makes them difficult a little bit to... It would be nice in the future... We'd have to have, like, a whole studio or something, but just, like, you know, record them live, upload them live, kind of thing.
Yeah. I guess we could try to stream one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the audio... Oh, Sam, you found my flip-flops. These are not chew toys. But thank you for trying.
Am I going to have to put you in the crate while we record? I'll do it. I'll fucking do it.
He's sitting there like, no.
Please don't, Dad. I didn't want to go in the crate. Well, I don't care what you want, Sam, okay? Please, let me just scratch my face. Oh, I'm licking my nuts now. Right. I got a good fake argument.
We still haven't done our introduction, have we?
No, because we have to do the argument first, and then we go, oh, hey, welcome back.
All right, what's our fake argument?
My side is... Luigi is better than Mario.
What?
Hands down.
I guess I don't... No, you know, I really like Bowser, actually. In a weird way.
But I also like Bowser, so we can't argue about that.
No, you don't understand. Bowser's better than Luigi. And you're like, this is a non-argument. Why?
What a weird argument.
Whatever. Hello, I'm Tyler. Welcome to Wander's Rest.
This is a terrible introduction. Hey, what's up? Alright, welcome, man. I'm Tyler. Alright, cool. This fucking guy, back again. Sitting in his car listening to us. Stop picking your nose, dude. Meanwhile, I got
what? Oh my
god, how does he see me?
Stop picking your nose. Dave. In the hopes that the one guy that listens to this is like picking his nose at the exact moment. And he's like, my name's Dave.
I'm Dave.
Like, whoa!
Have I even started? Like, I don't even... I hate the intros because I'm like, I feel so awkward about it. So
I just want to get into what we're talking about anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Let's just start be like, hey, welcome back. And just jump in.
Hello! Yeah. Welcome back to the Wanderer's Rest.
Ready? And...
I was just doing it.
Well, because I was already talking over...
Welcome to the Wanderer's Rest. I'm Tyler, your co-host.
And I am
co-founder.
I am Mike, the main host and main founder.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Also co-host, also co-founder. What up, Mike and Tyler here, coming at you live from the Wanderer's Rest Tavern.
Well, I mean, when they're listening to it, it's not going to be live. But
well, we're live right now.
We're alive.
We are alive.
We are alive.
We are alive in this wonderful tavern around us.
I should come clean with you, Mike, actually. And all this time that I've known you, I'm actually a lich.
Oh my god, me too.
That's why all the time we advocate for liches, because...
It's true, yeah. Throwback to episode... where we talked about how what the world really needs is a good lich.
Good lich characters.
Good lich.
I think.
Is what the world needs.
There are definitely some characters that are like that do effectively live forever. There are definitely people that are attracted to characters that, like, you know, my character's 500 years old, and that doesn't faze me at all. I don't act any differently because I'm 500 years old, but I don't even know what that would be like.
Yeah.
Sammy's got my other flip-flop.
I'm going to apologize to our listeners now for my very stupid puppy. Who is just like, there's something on the floor, I must eat it.
I like these flip-flops too, they're really good.
Oh, now you're being nice. Okay.
Okay, so we'll get to that question, I think. We should do that.
Which question?
Or, no, we'll save it for a future episode.
Yes.
At least we should acknowledge it.
Future Tyler, edit this part out because current Tyler is an idiot.
No. I think we should acknowledge it because, you know, in case whomever that is actually listening. What was it, Bob?
Bob, we had a baby eats a boy?
We had a baby eats a boy? Okay, alright. So, yes, if that person is a real person, and they are indeed listening to Wanderer's Rest, we should at least acknowledge that we've heard them.
We did get, it took us a while, but we did get your question, and we are devoting an entire episode to it, which we will record maybe later today? Maybe not. So we'll have, but either way, it'll be out, probably a week or so after the one you're listening to right now. So depending on if you're listening to this on our Patreon, or if you're listening to this on one of the many other sites we use, soon. We'll get to it. Soon.
I think that's important, at least.
We have heard you, Bob. We had a baby eats a boy. And we are listening.
But I kind of wanted to get into. We have our adventures sort of coming up for New Bloods, and then it ties in really well to. I ran a tweet poll.
Before we get into that, let's at least explain. So the New Blood anthology. A while ago, so Tyler and I are members of a Facebook group called Dungeon Jesus Christ.
Dungeon Mills?
Dungeon Guild Creators.
Dungeonal Mills?
Dungeon Mills.
Do they
maker of your favorite cereals.
Instead
Dungeonos.
Instead of like Ravenloft with like Count Strahd, it's Count Chocula.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so this Facebook group, this was around the time that the Uncaged anthologies had come out, which were wildly successful products on DM's Guild. Someone put forth the idea of a lot of the newer creators making an anthology just so they can kind of get the experience of working together and getting a more well-known product, getting their names out there. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, a lot of people flocked to it. Tyler and I are both in it as well. And it is being called the New Blade. I cannot talk ever.
It's because of Bled Zabbath. That's what it is.
It is. We'll talk about him later. That piece of shit. So the New Blood anthology, and the idea is, New Blood isn't like, hey, we're all New Blood, but then also we took that. So since there were so many writers, it's been split into 2 volumes. Volume 1 is like blood, as in like blood, horror, vampires, monsters.
Which my eyes lit up as soon as you told me that I would be working on the like horror themed monster list. I was
Yes.
like, perfect.
So, for those of you guys who have followed our Patreon and our website, Tyler has a one-shot, The Shrine of the Falling Snow,
Shrine of Fallen Snow,
which he ran at NJ GamerCon to wild success. If from what I've been reading about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I still have some of the notes that people left me. I have the drawing that kid made.
that drawing was fucking awesome.
right.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you know that like I'm doing something good here. I'm doing
Yeah,
something
when
that,
people
like,
make
find
fan art
valuable.
or fanfic about your campaign or game, that feels so good.
Especially, there's something great about like like the 10-year-old like kid that's actually really good at art.
Yeah.
Well, like it's a kid's drawing, but like
Yeah.
you can tell that like, dude, this kid's gonna be good, man, if he just sticks with it.
Yeah. So that's more of a horror theme and a monster theme. So that will be in Volume 1. My own one-shot, Thicker Than Water, will be in Volume 2, which deals more... So Volume 2, the new blood is like blood, like family ties, coming of age, not literal blood, basically. So mine deals more with family, basically. There's a quest to do with a certain family. I don't want to give away too much yet. But Volume 1, which will feature Tyler's one-shot, is due out around October-ish. And before Halloween, I know that's a fact because the blood monsters they want to tie into.
Yeah, I know there isn't like an actual. I have my own deadline.
We have our own deadlines in terms for editing and formatting, but the very loose date for Volume 1 is probably late October, around Halloween-ish time,
which is the perfect time for monsters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Volume 2, which is the one mine will be featured in, I think is mid-November. I want to say maybe end of November,
Which is perfect because it's Thanksgiving and everybody's visiting their families.
Holy shit! I did not even think of that. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I think around Halloween and Thanksgiving. I think Volume 1 and Volume 2.
I wonder if like we tell that to Darren, the guy running it, and he's just like, "Holy shit! I didn't even think about it." He's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. Also, the one really cool thing is there's an artist who is working with the product as well.
Dude, he's nuts.
He's so good. So his name is Bruno Rojo. So on Instagram or Twitter, it's hold on, god damn it, Instagram. I don't want to see these fucking stories right now. Okay, so it's Bruno BRUNO _RODJO. So he has been brought on to make every one shot got 3 NPCs, and he drew 3 NPCs for every one shot. So I mean, I know Tyler, I think you made an Instagram post about it. I've made Patreon posts and stuff about mine, and like this guy it's so good. He tweeted as well, and I believe we retweeted it. He took Tyler's concept picture and
I did a sketch a while back.
Yeah, he put it so he put his picture side by side with Tyler's concept picture.
And there's no comparison. His is insane.
Well, because the thing he was saying is it's so refreshing to have a reference to work from.
Oh yeah.
Which, like, anytime I've ever commissioned artists, I try to give them as much reference pictures as possible because the more. Because it's so hard to say, like, I want this and try to explain what you're looking for instead of, like, here's a picture, I want this theme, I want this pose, whatever.
Well, I felt it was a little bit necessary because the drinker is he's a homebrewed monster, so I felt like I needed there is no art of what he is.
You can't just say like I need an owlbear. Like it's
right. Like I want him to be like even other demons would think that he's like sort of a mutant, like he's sort of like cobbled together. He's like the Quasimodo of demons in a way. I don't know how that that reads. Right?
No, yeah, I think
and like he's got like his eyes are all messed up and everything, and so I want him to be more of a villain for like other future stuff that I want to do and everything. Yeah. He's an older character, but it's nice to have a little bit of picture. Yeah, and his blows it away
because I know Tyler. I think you've mentioned it on the podcast as well. That one shot is kind of a tie-in to a larger campaign that you're working on in that whole continent, right? Yeah. So Tyler's World of Zordera, we've talked about. There are many continents on Zordera, and I believe that the continent you're working on now is the northern continent, which actually our campaign started there.
Yep.
I think we spent the first.
It's more of a reworking of that area to make it like even harsher elements.
I believe we spent the first 4 levels there, I think, and then we fucked off to this island chain. Then we eventually got to Zordera proper. But yeah.
So I love like like weird elements and like taking people out of their comfort zone. Like anytime that you're in like a really placid forest and everything, it's not. I don't know. I need like the environment to also be like, super cold or super hot or.
Well, that goes back to our discussion before about like, every D&D game. If you think, for those listening, when you think about one of your D&D sessions and you've been outside, tell me one time it is not, you've even known what the weather was.
Yeah. Like
everyone just assumes like, oh, it's just a sunny day. Or like whenever it rains, it's like raining because it's a narrative rain. Like,
and I feel like the best ticking clock also, or, every campaign should have some sort of ticking clock. You should feel some kind of urgency to get where you're going or something. But I don't know why I've been so recently attracted to like that. Like it's the beginning of winter, and like people are starting to like the snows are starting to seal areas in to where
absolutely
you can't go there or you'll be trapped if you go there. So like that, late November, early December kind of feeling of a campaign where like it would be dangerous to go there right now, and leading into like a survival-esque campaign, which is what Shrine of Fallen Snow is.
Or even like if you go there, you've got to be back by this time, or the pass will close.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree. So that's at least a little bit of an update for some of the stuff we've been working on. I know I posted some stuff to Patreon. Tyler's posted some stuff to Patreon as well, and our website. For those wondering, really, our website is probably the best source of information because I try to do a blog post at least once a week, once every other week if I can. I know Tyler. We have
I'd like to do another. I did an introduction for Shrine of Fallen Snow, and now that it's it's in another stage of its development or whatever, that it'd be good to do another update for that too.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much the big projects that have been that we've been working on, I believe. Which, speaking of Shrine of Fallen Snow, which will lead us into the main topic for today, which is the tweet I was talking about. So go ahead, Tyler.
Okay, all right. So I have a tweet over here. So I ran a tweet. I ran a tweet poll. One of them Twitter polls. And it's weird. You throw a bunch of tweets into the void and nothing ever really responds, and then one thing gets away from you. But I was writing, and Shrine of Fallen Snow is kind of an introduction, like as a one shot to if you can really experience survival and D&D hard mode, you can sort of be introduced to hard mode through Shrine of Fallen Snow. So it's sort of a way of if you're a DM and you've never tried hard mode before, you've never really tried what was that?
I'm taking a picture. I'm tweeting a picture right now of us recording in the dogs.
Okay. What was I saying? So yeah, if you have players as a DM, or you're a player and you're talking with your group or anything about running like a meat grinder campaign or like D&D hard mode or survival, Shrine of Fallen Snow is kind of good for that. So I was wondering like how attracted people really are to meat grinders, where death is all but certain, and a wrong choice should really lead to like a player death or total party kill. Because I feel like we've said before that consequences really help people like stay engaged. They make sure that they're making the right decisions, because if the wrong decision can lead them into a fight where they just can't win, then they're really going to try and pay attention and really try and choose their battles carefully. Not even just like run into every fight, but like choose their battles. And it got a huge response. And at the end of the day, I mean, we're only getting like 100 some odd votes out of people, which is not a terribly huge pool.
I mean, for having just over 200 followers.
For us, yeah.
That's a pretty big number
it's
for
great.
us. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, like, I don't know if this is for everybody across the board. But
basically we're saying this. We don't know if this is something that applies across the board, but at least in our very small research study, I guess, for lack of a better word. I don't know how I want to consider it, but yeah.
Well, my two options for the votes were Today's a Good Day to Die or I Fear the Jaws of Death. And it was a very, very divisive topic, but in the end, Today's a Good Day to Die. Die won out over everything, which it's very heartwarming, actually, that people just, at the end of the day aren't super afraid, and like, because I know we can get very guarded over our characters sometimes, And I'm sure... I don't know if any of like my main characters have really ever died. Unless they were NPCs, they've died. But
yeah, I think we have actually talked about this too, that I've never had a character die.
No?
No.
Well, I mean, it could be because, we're just experts at D&D and we're just really good.
Well, I mean, you've tried. You've clearly tried to kill my characters and they have not died yet.
Have I?
We have a running joke that I think Tyler has killed at least one character, or not saying you've killed. In the groups we played in, everyone's characters have full-on died at least once. Except mine. I think mine's the only one that hasn't died yet.
I'll get you one day.
You can certainly...
You're like my like unicorn on the hit list. Like, one day.
Well, it's because we played Tomb of Annihilation, which on Chult is a very...
No.
And of course...
And you actually didn't show up to a lot of the Tomb of Annihilation.
I was working a lot of overtime.
No.
Okay?
Damn it.
But also, the times I was there, we talked about this before we started recording, about players building characters to fit into the world.
Mm-hmm.
I built a character who was from Chult. He was a Monster Hunter Ranger. And I know people are like, Monster Hunters are the worst subclass.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking loved it. And
it was awesome.
I built him to have been someone who was made to survive Chult because he lived there. So a lot of times, like...
I had another one of those tinges where it's like, I kind of wish that I was like playing alongside Smoke a little bit instead of DMing him, because I can't, as a player, just be like, dude, Smoke. Like, bro handshake.
Well, also, too, because this took a long time for me to realize, but with Smoke especially, I don't know if this is meta knowledge, but I knew at least Chult is a very dangerous place. But at the same time, Smoke knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if you ever noticed, but Smoke's decisions, a lot of time, he's very cautious. He never, he's not like Jarek, who just rushes headlong into danger. Smoke was very calculating. And,
right.
when we had to climb that tower, I remember having him, he studied the tower before he even fucking tried to climb it.
You, stake out that tower.
He stuck, that's why he was the one that was saying, we need to wait until nightfall, or a rainstorm rolls in, or those terrafolk are going to rip us to shreds.
Yep.
So, we eventually waited for nightfall. It was under cover of a fucking hurricane, of all things.
Yeah, it developed into a tropical storm.
Yeah.
I think, which was nuts.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Because I keep thinking of it too, going back to what we said earlier about, the idea of weather. And we've talked about weather in other episodes as well. But, how cool imagine you have two scenarios. One, where you're like, okay, we'll wait till night, you climb the tower till nighttime, whatever. Or, you wait till night, a fucking hurricane rolls in. And you're like, we gotta get up there. And you're climbing a tower fighting people in a hurricane.
Yep.
That's badass. I remember reading, when I had the old D20 Star Wars role-playing game years ago.
Right.
And I remember reading I think it was somewhere in the book, they're talking about setting the scene and stuff like that. And they're saying, players aren't going to remember a fight with stormtroopers on a regular road. But fighting against a Sith on a crumbling bridge in a lightning storm, they're going to remember that. And I was like, that image stuck with me. That's so, I want to fight in locations that, could be painted on a van. Does that make sense?
Does it always have to be raining and lightning?
I don't know. I just think of that. I think about, some dude, it's on a mountaintop and there's lightning in the background. I don't know. I'm weird.
Lightning is very attractive.
It is.
Don't get me wrong. And it should be... It should be within your repertoire of things as a DM to throw at people the same way that, you might think about gravity as you're standing on a ledge or something.
Yeah.
It's an element in your world.
To go a little off topic, from the time I was about 8 till about probably 22, my life goal was to get struck by lightning, live, and develop lightning superpowers.
That's not how lightning works.
I know that now.
Obviously. I'm not trying to.
I still want it to happen. Yeah, but anyway.
Dude, I kicked my leg out while I was laughing, and I definitely put my foot on your puppy's head, and he was like, it's okay, just crush my head.
Yeah,
sorry.
he is passed out right now.
Passed the fuck out.
Yeah, so I just tweeted a picture of the two of them. I was like, the pups are asleep, time to record.
Quickly while we have time.
Siri, go back to sleep.
No, she's got to get in her, draw me like one of your French girls pose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our response though to Meat Grinders was pretty cool. I deeply respect that at the end of the day, when the chips are down, people aren't afraid, to walk into Tomb of Annihilation or walk into Strahd or something.
And I also think too that it's. I mean, I can't really speak for these people because I'm not in their heads for them when they're making the votes. But like, I think of it too as in, like, you're not like I'm ready to die, but like you want those stakes too. Like it's the same
Those
thing.
stakes
Like,
should be there, yeah.
yeah, like when you play something or like when you do something and there was no consequences if you failed, you're like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But like when you're, like you said, when the chips are down and like your back's against the wall, like, and you survive, that's badass.
Really interesting things can happen that way.
Like again, I'm gonna consistently go back to Smoke because Smoke is one of my favorite fucking characters I've ever made. We were fighting Terrafolk on the top of a gigantic 300, 400 foot tower in a hurricane, and these Terrafolk.
It's very small. I think it's like a 50.
It was a 15 by 15 foot platform.
Yeah.
And these Terrafolk are grabbing people and throwing them off the ledge. One guy had two. Like, a character died, made a new character, that character died. Within, 10 minutes of real life time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because using the environment is the best weapon that I have. The Terrafolk that way, like, knowing that you can just throw people off of a ledge at any one point in time takes the Terrafolk from just being, like, some throwaway monster or whatever into being actually terrifying.
And the thing is, I felt that as Smoke. And, like, I know when I've played Rangers before where it's like, you get in position, you shoot your bow, you wait for the next turn, you shoot. You don't move that much.
Right.
When I made Smoke as a Tabaxi, I was like, Tabaxis have climbing speed. They can go double their movement if they don't move the next turn.
Right.
Like, they have so much. Again, I talked about this earlier that my roots are in a tactical mini wargaming hobby. So when I look at D&D combat, I'm thinking of it in terms of like tactics.
Right.
So I had Smoke. He was like parkouring off columns. He like hung on a wall and then jumped off and fired his bow in midair. Like, he was constantly moving. He never
parkour.
No, seriously, I think you probably remember this. He never stopped moving, so the Terrafolk couldn't grab him. It's like they'd be within range. He's like, "Fuck you!" and like he like he was,
yeah.
I
think I remember.
And like everyone else was like, "I cast Firebolt," and like not move. Like I remember sitting there and being like, "You guys,"
I'm just sitting there with my Terrafolk like. Push, nudge.
I'm like, you guys
lift.
need to move. I'm like, get away from the edges.
I think that was an important tone setting moment too, because I think we lost two people. Like 2 people died out of that encounter too, and that was
both
like,
of Chris's characters.
Yeah, and it was like, welcome to Tomb of Annihilation.
Because the thing is, a lot of times with 5th, in my opinion at least. With 5th edition being so streamlined and a lot more newbie friendly, people don't know that D&D can be a dangerous. I'm not dangerous like you personally in the real world, but D&D can be a dangerous game.
Yeah,
like
sometimes you can have that save or die Gary Gygax moment.
Yeah, like I never had experience with it because I came into it during 4th edition. But Save or Die was a huge part of those early editions. And like now, which I will say,
there's a tinge of like missing a little bit of that.
So that's the thing I'm saying. I'm not saying that everything needs to be Save or Die, but having those things is interesting. Like, okay, so I've been watching a lot of College Humor's D&D shows, Dimension 20. And they had a live show, and they were rolling for...
Is that the high school one?
That's the Fantasy Island one, yeah.
Okay.
So they were doing a live show,
yeah.
And one of the things they were doing was they were fighting a Medusa. And the guy's like, yeah, make your con check. He fails. Like, okay, you're stone. And he was so used to old editions where if you fail that save, you are instantly stone. But then they were saying...
Oh, yeah, he's like starting to become stone.
Yeah, but he's saying like now granted, the guy rolled way under the number, so he automatically, because I think if you roll 5 or less below the DC, you're still automatically stone.
Okay.
So in the live show, he's like, I'm so used to that save or die, I didn't realize that if you roll a little bit under, you just begin to go.
Right. It's the same way with death saves. Like, part of me feels a little bit like bleeding out is... I like the mechanic of bleeding out. But the fact that you've gotten all this way and now you've fallen, like you had every chance to save your character up until the moment that you finally fell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like now you're bleeding out and there's still 3 rounds or you can still stand up on your own kind of thing. Like there's so many chances for you to get back up and get back in the fight and stay alive. There should be more opportunities for you to fail and die Because I feel like your every choice that led you up to the moment that something finally reduced you to 0 hit points, like, that was your chance. Those were your death saves. You failed. You know, now we've turned it into, like, you get 3 more death saves left. If you fail...
In opposition to that, I will say, I played a rogue that had a 0 con modifier. And her max hit points at level 18 was like 80.
Right.
So I remember I think at the time she was level...
She's still pretty hard to hit, though.
Very, very true.
Right.
The problem is that with a rogue at the time, if you do get hit, you're fucked. So, like, she got blasted by a red dragon's fire breath. And I obviously used evasion. And I told the DM, I'm like, if I didn't have evasion, she would have just died. Like, flat out died. Mm-hmm. So she used evasion and was reduced to, like, 2 hit points. Because this was, like, she was 14th or 15th level.
Right.
Or maybe even lower than that. And, like, they're like, okay, Violet, it's your turn. I'm like, she runs. Yeah. She leaves.
Run as fast as you can.
She ran the fuck out of that cave. She climbed down the mountain and booked it into the woods. Everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, she is within an inch of her life from one attack that he can possibly get back. She's fucking out of here.
Right.
And like, what the hell? I'm like, okay, first off, she's also chaotic neutral. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, she's part of this team, absolutely. But in that split second, she's like, I'm useless here. I'm out.
I think that was when we were talking about fear, too.
Yeah,
fear
exactly.
Mechanics, mental mechanics.
Yeah, because a lot of...
Such a great moment.
She had a lot of shit go down with her. I really feel like... people always say, like, you know, your characters don't have to have sad backstories. And I'm like, that's true. But goddamn, it's not compelling. It really, like shit went down with Violetta. I actually, like, feel... I imagine if she was a real person, like, I would feel terrible for her. Like, she went through a lot of shit. Oh. And not even through my own choice, like, just through the way the dice fell and the way the story went. And I was like, God damn.
That's what happens when, like, you role play your character to the T.
But also, I think it comes down to the fact as well that going up against the Mikarn thing, 2 things. 1, it's all about setting expectations. And 2...
Yeah, that was a big part of the tweet, too. Most people, if they had anything to say at all, it was just that, like, you know, as long as I'm setting up the right expectation and you don't, like, you know, hit me with a Sidewinder halfway through, then it's cool.
So if you're not, if you start out and your first 5 sessions are like, I keep using this example, like a My Little Pony kind of thing, where it's like, you know, everyone's all friendship, we're fighting for the sake of good, and then all of a sudden
is there a My Little Pony?
There is.
Pen and paper?
There is a My Little Pony. I believe there is. Yes,
of course.
I know some people. Sandrasa, if you're listening, I know that you are running the game Tales from Equestria. Seriously, there's a game for it. But I'm saying, like, in that kind of a game, like, the tone of it would be, you know, more like, you know, cartoony, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But, like, if your first 5 sessions are that cartoony and all of a sudden that 6th session, it's like, murder! Like, that, whoa! Where did that come from?
Count Strahd rolls into
but then,
Equestria.
On the flip side, if you're running a Count Strahd, if you're running a Ravenloft campaign, you're going full-on gothic horror.
Yeah, and Twilight Sparkle, like, comes through.
Stop it. And then, like, those first 5 sessions are all about gothic horror, and then all of a sudden, like, someone dies, and the DM's like, wait, you know, no, you don't die. No, like, you have to agree what those expectations are in the very beginning. Like, that's why I keep saying session zeros are... I think we mentioned session zeros in every episode.
Yeah.
But, like, they really are just so important, because the idea is...
or we were talking about that earlier just now. We were talking more about session zeros, like... and
for your character tones.
Like, it's a player's responsibility to try and make a character that, you know, not only would be fun to play for them, but would be able to engage with the world that you're about to go into and the story that you're about to have.
Yeah.
And it's like the same reason why I wouldn't, you know, if I'm going into Tomb of Annihilation, I'm not going to play, you know, Romeo Montague, who's like worried about his girlfriend back home. You know, like, you're in Chult and you're meant to survive against disease and necromancy, and that's not the character to bring in there.
Exactly. Like, which is why I made Smoke. And I know the example Tyler said before is, I know I give Tyler a lot of shit for his one character, Bledzebeth. So Bledzebeth was a vampire, Black Knight Paladin. Yeah. You have. But I'm saying, like, a character like Bledzebeth fits so well into Ravenloft. It's but, like, you're not going to bring Bledzebeth to, like, I don't know.
I've lived, because I love Castlevania so much, and I've lived just for that one moment that I can have right before walking into Count Strahd's castle where the gates open up and I just take out my chain whip and I just go whoosh, whoosh, and then storm the castle in the light of a crescent moon. That's I need that. I need that so bad, and that's why I made Blood Sabbath. But I wouldn't play Blood Sabbath in really anything else. Yeah. I could probably find a use for him in some things or whatever, but it's specifically that. And you should think about that as a player. You should be wanting to make characters that are going to have, because it makes you have more fun. You're not going to have as much fun if you're playing something you want to play, like Cloud Strife or something, and you're playing in Ravenloft. You're just not. As much as you want to be Cloud Strife, you're doing yourself a disservice as a player, and you should really try and think about, playing a Van Helsing type character or something, or anything that fits.
Like if you're agreeing to play, like you can obviously have a different character and have those elements in that game, but if you are flat out agreeing to play a Ravenloft campaign, it's a gothic horror type game. Now, granted, I've seen DMs run it differently, where it's a little more comical. But again,
and I'm not saying that you have to play Van Helsing. If you think of some way of putting a really interesting twist on the genre, then by all means, there's no one way to play Ravenloft.
Like the example I gave before is you wouldn't want to come into Ravenloft playing happy-go-lucky unicorn summoning cleric. But then again, that could be an interesting character.
That absolutely could.
How would that character deal with the depression and the just overbearing nature of Barovia?
You just need to make sure that you're setting your expectations, because if you're playing Dr. Unicorn in Ravenloft or something, and you're super sad that you don't get to I don't know, go back to your petting zoo and live under the rainbow or something with Dr. Unicorn, then maybe you're not playing Dr. Unicorn in Ravenloft for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I want to get to... Okay, I have another response, though, here. I want to make sure that I get this right. Because I had some really interesting responses, actually. Players came close to death in our last meet, but only because I chose not to kill him. Oh, yeah. All right, so this was another area that was a little weird. And... this guy that I was responding to on Twitter.
Do you want to give names in case they are also listening?
I guess so. Nerul, GM. I guess if you feel like getting name dropped here. He was talking about how he enjoys the challenge, obviously, and then he made a decision. One of his players came really close to death. He was the dungeon master, but it was only because he chose not to kill them. He could have easily killed them, but he chose for the boss to hit the unconscious in a way that would have given him 2 death save fails instead of 3 before the boss died. And then I remember thinking, that's a whole other can of worms. That actually probably should be its own topic for the future. He's basically saying that he fudged the numbers.
Okay.
He chose not to kill them, I think, when he absolutely could have, or when he was totally within the right to have. Yeah. And I think that's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
because that's you as a dungeon master thinking about fudging your dice rolls, which I do have mixed feelings about. I'm not. Yeah. I'm totally I'm not above it by any means, but there are definitely times where for especially a life or death moment or something, you really got to try and go where the dice take you. That's my stance on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. We can definitely talk about the fudging dice rolls as well too. So let's see, what are some other good responses we had here?
Do you have the tweet open too?
Yeah, I pulled it up just so I could also follow along too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I write Cindy's Not Tragedies, which is at BabbleDrabble on Twitter. Said, I love them. Epic adventures, hard choices, potential death. Those are my favorite adventures. Which, of course, Tyler responded with a gif from Hook, which is the greatest movie of all time. But yeah, and
to die would be a great adventure.
I think the whole point of it too is, those hard choices and those potential deaths make it an epic adventure.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if I said this. We talk so much before we start recording that I forget when I said things.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I'd said before that if you do something and there's no consequence to failing,
it's why are we?
It's boring. Saying, okay, whatever.
Like, I'm showing up basically to story time every week.
Yeah.
You know?
But like if there are legitimate consequences and there's a chance something can go wrong, that's enthralling. Like it's fun to be a part of.
Yeah, think about it. Game of Thrones stopped being fun when there were no longer consequences.
Yeah, that is true. No, right? It's like, or even better. Like, all right. So me as a 32-year-old man, if I'm someone's like, all right, I'm gonna have you foot race a couple kindergartners, and if you lose, I get to shoot you. Okay, cool.
What?
But if they're like, I'm going to have you race some Olympic athletes, and if you lose, I'm going to kill you. It's like, fuck, shit. I know it's a bit of a weird example, but like, that's like...
That is a big metaphor, but I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, but I'm like, you're racing kindergartners, you're like, all right, they're going to eat the ground when they start running. They're not going to.
We don't kill the kindergartners.
No,
right?
kindergartners.
No, okay.
No.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure. I don't...
But yeah, another thing, too... there's two I wanted to mention as well, so I'll do one, then you can jump to another one, and then we'll go back and forth, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah, sure.
So, one thing that kind of goes along with our point here, Danger Brothers, so at Danger Brothers D&D on Twitter, said, I'm great with it as long as we're all on the same page before we decide to start prepping characters. Boom. That's exactly what we said before.
Session 0.
Session 0. But the other one here, that's I like this too, is, first off, great fucking Twitter name here. Literally 3 kobolds in a trench coat, at 3 kobolds, said somewhere in between, I want death to be on the table as a consequence, but I don't want to be playing Dark Souls either. Now, I know, Tyler, I can see it in your face. I can see it. Tyler loves Dark Souls.
Well, okay.
Loves Dark Souls.
All right, so the other like basic setup that I've always wanted to make as its own kind of campaign that I love about Dark Souls is like Lordran, Drangleic, and Lothric are all kingdoms. They're settings for Dark Souls. You've never played any of them, right?
Bits and pieces, yeah.
Bits and pieces. All right. So they're all different settings for Dark Souls, but essentially they're all like huge kingdoms, right? These massively expansive, like super successful high fantasy kingdoms, or like they were high fantasy at one time. And Dark Souls is always sort of like a world that's like in the end. It's in death and decay and everything. So this beautiful, like once beautiful, Gothic kingdom is now, the Wild West, basically. And like, it's the whole world is a gigantic dungeon that you're just one intrepid explorer that like doesn't mind, walking into the blackness of this once great realm and everything. I feel like that's such an interesting setting for a D&D campaign where like, you're going through what's essentially like a lifeless city that's been overrun by monsters, and there's death around every corner. Yeah. And, the few NPCs that you meet are only here because they're as crazy as you are to walk into this freaking hellhole. Like, you gotta level with me, man. Sometimes Dark Souls in D&D is pretty good.
I'm totally blanking on where I had heard this viewpoint, but it kind of stuck with me, is a lot of times, I know me personally, I like to get involved and invested in my characters. And sometimes, if I'm playing a game or a system where I know death is almost certain,
you can.
I'm gonna build a character that I have no connection to because they're gonna die.
I know. And instead of making smoke, you're gonna end up making like red shirt number 5.
Yeah, it's like Terrence. Like
I know it is. It's a little hard to get invested, but it's also possible that like for the brief time that you get to know Red Shirt number 5, you might learn some new things about this random character that you kind of
it's true. It's just that's also my viewpoint of it as well.
And like for the brief time that I did know Red Shirt number 5, he actually was like one of the most interesting characters I ever played. That's possible too.
Yeah,
it is a trade off. Don't get me wrong. It is a trade off.
I also think too that I know we talked about this before starting recording, that I have no problem with my characters dying. I told the story about how my recent campaign ended. Violetta was a rogue, and actually they were fighting a Vecna level Lich, and at the time the Paladin, our heaviest hitter, was in a force cage and couldn't get out. So she spent her entire turns up on this. They're fighting on top of a mountain. She was up on this rocky thing, just hurling these shitty insults at this Lich, keeping his attention, like, you're a piece of shit, blah, 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 like just keeping his attention off the rest of the party. And in my head, I'm like, Violetta's going to die. Mm-hmm. And I know she's going to die trying to save the rest, give her party time to free the Paladin.
Chaotic neutral.
So, well, she was. But the thing was, this is also her friends. Like, she became friends with them. She's still chaotic neutral, but like, those are her friends. So, eventually the Lich is just fucking with them. Like, I think the Lich knew what she was doing, whatever. So she had an oath bow, which is my favorite fucking weapon now. It's so cool.
Oh yeah,
so
we've seen it many times.
Yeah, so she kept shooting him and stuff, and eventually he unleashed power word kill, and there's
on her.
Oh. And she was below 100, so she was dead. So of course I was like, I said to my DM, like, can I say something before I die? And he's like, yeah, of course. So she has her arms outstretched, and she looks to the paladin who she was in a relationship, and she's like, Leb, I love you. Gets hit and just tumbles down the side of the mountain.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I don't know if the other players got a reaction out of it, like I know I did, but I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like I'm always okay with death, like heroic death. So, like self-sacrifice is always. Someone tweeted something before about like, what tropes in movies always make you cry. I'm like, self-sacrifice every time. When someone sacrifices themselves for someone they love,
taking oneself out of the equation.
Yeah, that always gets me. So obviously, eventually, Leb the paladin he escaped. They killed the Lich. And then Violetta had been revivified, and then we found out later through other experiences in the campaign, the Paladin had actually become the phylactery of the Lich. So we had killed the Lich, and then we realized we had to kill the Paladin. So of course my character,
how did Violetta come back?
She was revivified.
Okay.
So Leb saved her.
Neat.
Yeah, so he brought her back to life, and then she ended up killing Leb because he's the phylactery. So of course they had this kind of tearful moment. She stabs him in the neck to kill him, and then they realize they had to completely destroy his body. So the wizard is like, I'm going to cast Fireball on him. So Violetta's holding on to his body because, she loves him, so she doesn't want to be without him. The wizard, an evocation wizard, can protect Violetta from her spells. So she casts Fireball, it explodes, disintegrates Leb's body. Violetta is completely protected, takes no damage.
It is really weird that the wizard sort of like took your own character's death away from you and like shielded you for some reason. That leads to
weird. The epilogue I told you about. So that's how the campaign ended.
She became, and Violetta becomes a villain.
Violetta, I talked to my DM, Violetta, if he ever runs this campaign, this setting later on, I told him, like, you can use Violetta as a villain. Because her party, in her eyes, turned on her and didn't let her die with the love of her life. So she left the party, and
it's pretty heavy, man.
The epilogue I talked about when we ended the campaign was that she went back to her old patron, got her pact back, so she's a warlock again, completely willing to do anything her patron wants, as opposed to fighting against him.
Mm-hmm.
And
you either die a hero
or live long enough to become the villain. Literally, my favorite fucking quote from any movie ever. It's so good.
I mean,
because
it's true.
That's
it's
the thing.
Definitely true.
If she would have died, if they would have not revivified her, she would have died a hero. Mm-hmm. Because she was there to save Leb. But they brought her back to life, and she kept on living. She became a villain. Fucking,
you've made an excellent case for why death in games it's necessary. It should be there.
I think so. And the thing is, like, we of course we all have our little D&D babies. We want to make sure they grow up big and strong and they live happy lives.
Not in apropos to what you're talking about with Violetta, a little bit of a tangent, I guess. Not really. Maybe it's a tangent. I don't actually know. But I remember one of the talking points that I wanted to get to before doing this episode was my buddy Corey. That was like my first real time DMing was DMing over him and his play group and everything. Corey did. He figured, like, it's okay if my characters die because I treat it as, like, our game sessions and everything, you as narrator and whatnot, these are not my character's actual life. They're stories that are being told about him. And so, that's like, they're differently... Right. So, like, after your character becomes epic or something and they're telling the tales of his life and everything, there's some bards that may get their story wrong. They may not be actually as much of a reliable narrator as they think that they are. And that's how, like, his character had died before and he was playing him again, even though he had been dead for so long.
Yeah.
And he just figured that, like, someone was just wrong, and they got his death wrong. And so that way, his character Dingo, could live so many different collective lives and playing so many different games, even though he'd been there and back.
That is a fucking beautiful sentiment.
I know.
Like seriously, so the idea is that your character is fine.
Oh, yeah.
So like oh my god, that's also kind of meta too. Like
right.
your games are just it's a bard telling a story.
Right.
That's so fucking cool.
So in this way, yeah. In this way, I mean, you don't have to feel so like overly attached that like, oh my god, my favorite character died. Like you can just think about it that like, this is kind of their story. I always wanted to interpret it as, if any of my characters died, that like, this is a different universe.
I was just going to say that.
There's I love multiverses. I'm sorry.
I stole that from you, I think. Because Jarek was, like I said before, Jarek was my first ever true character.
Yeah, and in that campaign, I did incorporate, the multiverse and you guys, like, coming face to face with your alternate versions of yourself. And
yeah, so ever since then, I've realized that anytime I've used Jarek, like, Jarek is in every single one of my campaigns, but they're alternate versions of him.
Right.
And I'm like, that's so cool to think that, like, if Jarek had died in that campaign, his story's not done. And I feel like that's a big fear people have, where like if their character dies, like, well,
they feel like their story's over.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, there is some credibility and credulity to like the finality of death.
To die would be a great adventure.
To die would be a great adventure.
I'm looking at the Hook gif right now.
Just have it on repeat the whole time.
Yeah,
I know. I love that movie. I think I also what was it? Somebody was like. Someone replied to the tweet that like I vastly prefer to give my players problems that they have to live with. And I just remember thinking like it sounds kind of like Wesley, like instead of to the death, it's to the pain.
To the pain.
It's to the pain.
Good God, what is that thing?
It means I leave you in anguish, wallowing in freakish misery forever. And that's sort of an interesting way to play. That like. Them having to live with the scars and consequences of their choices without kind of the ability to die, I guess, also helps kind of thicken the story. So I guess it's sort of like, thinking about what's kind of best for the story. Death, no death. As long as there's some kind of consequence there is very, very important for people to feel like they are affecting the story and like, anything can happen.
I think that also leads into this next response. This is from the DM behind the screen. So at Shoremir, sorry. HJORIMIR.
Oh yeah, he had a lot of interesting shit to say.
Yeah, so he said, they said, I don't know. I like something in the middle. I don't want certain death, but I want death on the line and the game to be challenging enough to push us to the edge from time to time. Now this next sentence I really like. I find this kind of tone engages creative problem solving my players, which I enjoy immensely. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that when death is on the line, that like you need to think outside the box, and like that's what's so cool to me. Like I feel like a lot of times so many people get wrapped up in the way spells are worded, the way D&D mechanics work, that it's harder to think outside the box. Like my favorite thing I've ever done, and again I feel like I'm bragging, and I kind of am bragging because I thought it was really fucking cool. Zorn was fighting a gigantic squid. They had their own pirate ship. The crew is fighting this squid. It's like coming up out of the water, slapping them, putting tentacles back down. We're not getting good hits on it.
Yeah. So you drop the ship.
Fuck yeah! I'm like looking through my spells. I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? And I see control water.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is you part the water in a 100-foot cube. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm doing that. So he slammed fucking Aquaman, like we were just talking about the other day. He slams his trident down on the ship.
What a solid movie.
What a great fucking movie.
It's so... man.
He slammed,
it's kind of goofy. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. No, just talking about Aquaman.
It all fits.
There are so many scenes in that movie that are interrupted by explosions. It's actually kind of like a running gag in that movie. That like they'll be like talking or about to kiss or something, and then there's an explosion. And I don't know why that was such like... why did that have to happen like 5 times? I don't have an answer to that question.
It's amazing, though.
It happens over and over again. There's definitely some really solid moments, though, in that
But
movie.
I think the best... your tweet was perfect, where it said, it may not be Shakespeare, but a movie where someone calling himself Ocean Master is fighting crab people underwater in a massive battle, which is interrupted by a fucking kraken.
From the center of the earth.
From the center of the earth. Where else are you going to get that? Where else will you get that? But yeah, so going back, so Zorn slams the trident down, water parts under the ship falls and crushes the squid on a reef of coral underwater. dealing, and how the ship got really fucked up.
Do you guys do what math did you do for dropping a ship onto a?
I think it was. Honestly, I think the DM just kind of winged it because
Okay.
he was just like, "That is like when I said what I was doing." There was like a 30-second pause. He's like, "That is so fucking cool."
Did I ever tell you about Ivan's hammer?
Yes, yeah. The paladin who kept increasing his density.
I had to do the math for, I don't even remember how I did it. I could probably not do it again if I had to, but I was trying to, like, with all of his armor and his equipment, and like,
Why don't you tell the whole story about what happened?
So we're fighting. It's actually they were fighting the demon that the drinker is actually based on. So they were fighting him at like end stage, like epic level, basically. And the drinker had become this like huge, terrible, like, you know, existential threat to everything. And for whatever reason, my buddy Dustin was playing this character Ivan, and Ivan was like, he was like a paladin, but he worshipped Stalin, like, kind of thing. Like, he was like he was like communist paladin, and like red armor, and he had a halberd, and he just really wanted to do that like spear, halberd, giant tower shield, like, you know, brick shithouse of a guy kind of thing. And for whatever reason, he had the idea of like, you know, a way that he could spam or hack some kind of spell or something so that he could go up super high. And then, you know, once he reached like, you know, the top or whatever, and he knew that he could reach terminal velocity, he would just drop from there. And so then I had to calculate what his terminal velocity would be by the time he, you know, punched the drinker in the face, by the time that he like finally hit. And he had some other type of spell where if anything killed him or something, it would bring him back up to 1 hit point too.
Was it, Death Ward?
I think so, yeah. I think it was Death Ward. And so he knew that, like, you know, he also couldn't die this way. So he would just drop himself on, and, you know, they had to time everything right because, you know, the way that the drinker was or anything, there was like a very small window of time to actually be able to kill him or anything. So they had to time it right. And this all worked out in the end, and calculating his terminal velocity and like how fast he would be going and how much damage it would do was great. It was the highlight of my entire D&D career, was trying to figure out him like becoming this gigantic red comet. And what's even more amazing is I don't know that this was ever actually done in the Soviet Union, but there were plans somewhere that were drawn up, or I think the CIA was like speculating like some of the things that the Soviet Union could do as like a first strike weapon against America. It's so funny. And it's literally called Ivan's Hammer.
Oh, the kinetic missiles, right?
So yeah. So what they would do is they would take like a meteor or an asteroid, right? And they would put it on a collision trajectory with, you know, like the United States or something. And that would be a first strike weapon. Like, instead of like nukes or something being launched from Russia, they would just drop a rock from space or whatever. It was called Ivan's Hammer. And so I told my buddy Dustin, was like, you know, like, Ivan is going so fast that, you know, he gets like flames around like his face and everything, and his halberd melts into an actual like, you know, Soviet Russia like hammer. And then I was playing for his entire turn. I was playing the
Russian
the national anthem. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then he hit the monster, and it was cool too because like everybody else in the entire fight were like near dead. Everybody else was like totally out of the fight. There was nothing else that they could do. It was like their darkest moment. Yeah. And then like a ray of sunshine, he just comes in like a meteor, like, and blows everything up and kills this demon with one strike. Amazing. It was really awesome.
That's amazing.
I don't even know what that was in relation to anyway. That's just a great story.
That is absolutely a great story. Yes.
Oh man, Dustin, if you're listening, I love you, bro.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to death in games from that, I don't care. That story's amazing. I love that story.
I love, like, he tries to break the rules in D&D, and like I think that's like half of the enjoyment for him is like, you know, taking some like whatever reality is left in D&D, just throwing it out the window to like, you know, break some spell.
Yeah.
whatever it is, like sharpshooter. There are like numerous ways of breaking the game like super early. That's a whole other discussion. But like that's what he does. That's his whole MO is like making a character that, you know, takes some weird advantage of some rule and totally legally breaks D&D.
All right, so another cool response from Art Under the Bridge, formerly Rain E Days. Oh, again, Rain Days. Which is at red_days on Twitter. They said, if I know going in that it is the flavor of the campaign, then it's awesome. But I don't want to play those kind of campaigns all the time. The threat of imminent death is fun, but not constantly inescapable death. I think that is a great way to differentiate it.
I'm just an advocate for, like, you know, if you've made some type of wrong decision, and like I don't try to like punish people, but like if you've made some type of like, you know, gravely wrong decision and you're now in a position where death is inescapable,
it's true, but I
like
also
some type of.
I also think too that there's a difference between me, Mike, the player, making a stupid decision, whereas, you know, Rain was very intelligent. Rain wouldn't have made that decision if he was in control. But like me, that's what I'm saying. Like, so there is a bit of a difference there, and I do think you need to keep that in mind. Where we as players can be dumb and make dumb player decisions, whereas if you were thinking about your character, like there's been times that like we've played games with people, and someone's like, "I do this." And like it's either a spell that wouldn't work or a move that makes no sense. And our DM has been like, your character would not do that. Your character is smart enough to know that. Yeah, like I had someone who wasn't paying attention and cast a spell that specifically in the text says does not work on undead, and casted it on a person that's undead. And the DM at first
right
was like, you know what? No, your character would know that. You redo your turn. Now, granted. If the player is just not paying attention and not reading their spells, which is such an annoying thing, then he would let us. We've even had time so the DM I talk about a lot is his name is Metal God, Metal God 5e on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good DM. He's very. I like the way he does things. You do the same things too, where he had the hot seat, where he told people, he's like, listen, when it's your turn. You need to be done your turn. Yeah,
you have like
minute and a half,
60 seconds.
And he also said things like, you know, if you make mistakes, that's okay. But if you're making the same mistake, if you don't know what your class does by the time we're level 15,
you only get so many strikes, kind of thing.
He basically, he would say things like, you know, like we've had players who like they're like, what do I do? I'm gonna do this. It's like that's not how that works. And it's like if you're level 1 through 5. I get it. It's a lot, even if you're still a new player. But we've had people who've been playing for a very long time, and we're level 15, 16, and you still don't know how stuff works.
Right. It does kind of break the immersion because, you know, it's like, if you're still making that mistake, it's like, I don't really feel like I'm playing a game with Violetta. I'm sitting here with Mike who doesn't know how to play Rogue.
And the thing is, too, like, so one of the big things I remember we had a talk with Metal in the one game, he was saying that he's like, if you in combat, if you are continuously asking me, wait, where's this guy? What's he doing? What just happened? He's like, I'm not going to answer you. And I told him before, I'm like, listen, Metal, a lot of times when I ask that, it's because I'm trying to think about where everyone is in 3 dimensions on the battlefield. He's like, no, because he told me
he doesn't have a map.
He does. Because the thing is, this is when I was playing Rain, who could fly when he popped his wings. And he's like, listen, if you're asking me because you want to know exact distances, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But like, if you're asking me because you don't know what just happened, or like, I cast this spell on zombie number 5.
Right.
Zombie 5's been dead for 2 turns. Like,
right.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I always ask him, like, he had a little bit more leeway with me because of like I said before, I come from a very tactical wargaming background where I want to know where every person, where every enemy is, because that's how my brain works. It works more tactically. Where I'm like, okay, he's here, so... And again, I'm kind of going off topic here for a second, but I think this is something that needs to be brought up for players. When you are in combat, it's so tempting to like go on your phone, read the spell book, figure something out. When you pay attention, you need to have multiple options for what you're going to do on your turn. Like, for instance, Okay, I'm playing Rain. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use my attack and attack this kobold. I'm going to use my bonus action to have the ranger move up in position and fire at the dragon.
Mhm.
And then if the dragon moves, I'm going to do this instead. Like, I have plans A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Again,
And it's not even that, like, some people are incapable of feeling that way, but there are, like, there's certain levels of D&D where some people are just getting into it, like, that day, or they've only been playing for a year, whereas
also,
people like us...
I will also say, too, I keep bringing this up, but the thing is, it's because of all the mini war games I've played. I have to have multiple contingencies.
Which is why Fighter's there for you.
I love Fighter. I love Battlemaster Fighter. It is my favorite one. But the other things, like, there's people who, like,
it's always Barbarian, man. It's all about the Barbarian.
I know, I love Barbarians, too. But, like, there's people who, like, they just don't think that way. And that's fine. That's completely viable. I'm just saying, in my experience, that's how my brain works. And I do think that a lot of times it does suck when you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And it gets to the person before your turn who does something, you're like, shit, I can't do that anymore.
And then you have to throw your plans out the window.
Yeah, that I get that, but I mean that's just.
I'm more talking like as a DM. I want people to feel like, if I'm not thinking critically, at every moment that something terrible could happen, and I could die, or I could lead to the death of some other player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But again,
like
that comes down to setting that expectation up front. And going back to another thing I thought was kind of interesting about setting expectations, that Fantasy High game is run by a guy named Brendan Lee Mulligan, who he's been playing D&D for decades. And he said one of the things that he tells his players is when we get into combat, I am no longer in charge of what's happening. I'm a referee. He's like, I'm not saying I'm going to attack this one, I'm going to attack that one. He's like, I am figuring out what these enemies would do.
Right.
And then they do it.
Such as, picking you up off the top of Firefinger and throwing you off of a building.
Exactly. Like, for instance, like you could have very easily just what are you okay?
Oh, Sam's having, like, bad dreams or something.
Oh, yeah, he's having a little bad
You didn't hear that?
I did.
Okay.
I just talk over him sometimes. But yeah, so like when we were on top of Firefinger, you could have had those Terrafolk just like, I fly up and slash you, rah! But you're like, bye. It's like pick
it's
them, toss them.
It's so easy. I feel like sometimes me as the monster, I'm like, I would be stupid not to do these things. And I've had enough Dungeon Masters experience where like not making these kinds of decisions makes the fight kind of silly.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was playing. We still hadn't fought a dragon in one of my earlier campaigns, and I wanted to finally like introduce like a black dragon, like a big adult black dragon, and I had so much fun, and I was strafing around them and spitting acid on them, but I felt like they weren't really getting any chance to get like a really good hit in or anything, and I stupidly landed the dragon onto the battlefield, and they were so high level and everything, and they were so high DPS that like the dragon didn't even last a round.
Yeah,
they killed it in a round, and I was like, this is going to be like a really big fight, and it was going to be really awesome, and I totally dropped the ball, and I didn't realize like their power and what they could do and how to approach them effectively. And I was like, it's a black dragon, like it's super intelligent too, and like it would have never have done this, and that was totally on me. So like, yeah, if I'm playing a Terrafolk or whatever, I'm going to think of like, the best possible scenario for this Terrafolk is to throw you off of this building.
Yeah. Because
it probably can't match you physically, but you're on its home turf. So why wouldn't it do these things? Like, I don't have a good reason for me to not do these kinds of things. And you know what the monster is, you know what it's capable of, what it can do, and you know how gravity works. Like, at a certain point, it's silly not to be that malicious.
I also think it comes down to the fact, too, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about different DM tactics and combat things. And one of the things I saw was, it's kind of dumb to run your enemies like they're just going to run at you until they die. Like, enemies are smart. So, like, for instance, they get the videos watching gave an example about goblins. Mm-hmm. They're like, when more than 3 goblins die, they're going to fuck off. They're going to run away. And, like, the one shot...
It's actually a good way of speeding up combat, too.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to fight through 15 goblins. Like, if they watch 3 of them die and every goblin is kind of a coward,
Yeah.
and they're just like, all right, peace, and they run away. Like, it's a fun way to end combat sometimes.
That's like the one-shot I ran for the Playtest Lab.
Mhm.
The Monster Hunter type one-shot. On their way to track down this monster, they ran into these ambush drakes that I had kind of tweaked and made them a little bit stronger.
Mhm.
So there were these fire-breathing lizards, and they had killed 2 of them, and one of them was really wounded. The other one was kind of wounded. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this monster, at first they overwhelmed the group. Now they are overwhelmed. This is a predator. This predator would know to fuck off.
Right.
So
it's like how, like, actual sharks, if you, like, hit them in the eye or whatever, like, they'll just drop what they're doing and just be like, all right, fuck this. No way. I'm not going to lose my eye over a meal or something.
So I rolled...
Like, would you still want to eat a Big Mac or something if they were like, hey, I might stab you in the eye if you try and eat this Big Mac? Like,
no.
I'll go to McDonald's.
So I think I rolled just like a generic wisdom save, and one of them got a nat 1. So I'm like, well, he stays. He stays or he keeps fighting. But the other one was like, ran off into the woods. And then the final monster they fought not a purple worm, but sort of like it's a different version of a purple worm.
Mm-hmm.
And the barbarian got eaten. And it comes back to the worm's turn.
The barbarian died.
No. So he was inside.
Oh, he was inside, yeah.
He got eaten by the worm, and he was inside of it right now. And I'm like, okay, so the barbarian's inside.
He was pulling a K from Men in Black.
So I said, there's a druid here, and there's a sorcerer here. Fuck it. I had the worm burrow back underground again. So the players are like, oh, like, what? I'm like, yeah, the worm has something in its stomach, and he burrows back underground. I was going to have that worm stay there for a while and just try to digest this barbarian.
Right.
Now, of course, on the barbarian's turn, he did a ridiculous amount of damage, as barbarians do, and the thing spit him up.
Okay.
So, of course, I have this great view of this worm going back down this hole, and all of a sudden here's like, you're like, and the barbarian, this dwarvish barbarian comes flying up out of the hole, like, and then on his turn, he's like, no! And of course, Metal is Scottish, so he loves playing Scottish dwarves. Like, come back here, you son of a bitch! And he jumps back into the hole again. It's amazing.
That's why barbarians are the best.
So imagine you're one of the characters. You see this tiny dwarvish barbarian get spit up out of a hole covered in just goo, curse the air, and jump back in the hole again. I was like, I told him, like, Metal, I love your barbarian so much. But yeah, and so again, so the worm came back out, and I kept that in mind. I'm like, if this worm eats something, he's going to retreat and try to digest it, which was cool because there was a goblin sorcerer. So the thing went to eat the goblin, hit him, and he obviously saved. And he's like, can I stay in the worm's mouth? I was like, oh, fucking course you can. Mm-hmm. So I said, like in Dragonheart with Dennis Quaid in the dragon's mouth. So this goblin sorcerer is holding the thing's mouth open, like, while it's in there. And it was just like, this is fucking amazing. Yeah. And I told him, like, listen, like, you're in its mouth. Like, he's going to get advantage again to hit you. He's like, nope, totally worth it.
You see some other goblin skeleton, like, and then its teeth. Who was that guy? Sean Connery's just like, oh yeah, that was Sir Robert.
Oh, it's been in my teeth for ages.
That's another solid movie.
That's
Dragonheart.
That's a great movie.
It's such a weird movie.
It's a very weird movie. Let me see. Are there any other good responses? I think we kind of hit the
I can't wait for us to both be like, no, there are no other good responses.
There are no other good responses.
Fuck everyone else.
If we didn't say your name, go fuck yourself.
No, it was a great experience getting to talk to everybody.
Absolutely.
And everybody was very, very constructive.
Yeah, I will say, the more I get into tabletop role-playing game Twitter, there is a bit of a dark beating heart under there. So it is nice seeing...
There are some shitty people or whatever, but I've been in a few online communities, and as far as I can see, everybody here is pretty great. Everybody within the tabletop gaming crowd is pretty great. It's a pretty good crowd.
I think so, yeah. On the average, yes. So I was very pleasantly surprised to see some really great points and really great conversations. So I want to keep doing this. I want to keep putting out polls, and I hope people will continue to engage with them, because I think this is what makes the hobby better. I think, coming up with these ideas, talking about these issues, and seeing what's out there.
Finding different styles of play, finding, different games that you probably wouldn't have played otherwise, and hopefully I can contribute something with my one shot, and introduce D&D hard mode to people who've never tried it or thought about it before, or introduce survival in some way, or introduce high stakes death meat grinder campaigns to people who might otherwise not have tried them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think for most people, Tomb of Annihilation is probably their first taste of something close to a meat grinder.
Yeah, I would say so. Where survival is, a whole part of the challenge, and making sure that you have the right equipment going into it, and where, death can just, be a random encounter.
That's like, I remember watching a lot more Puffin Forest videos. He had a video about an obelisk encounter. I think the video is called The Obelisk Encounter.
Yeah.
It's something
that's where I think it's from the original Tomb of Annihilation, if I'm wrong. That whole obelisk, the whole point of that obelisk is that there are some things that you might some challenges or some parts of a quest or something that you might go for that there is no reward.
Yeah.
It's just there to punish you. It's just there to make things way harder.
So in that video, the one thing that always stuck with me was the fact that it's an Adventure League night, and the head GM comes up and he says something like, you're in the Tomb of the Nine Gods. Death is around every corner. There are some traps that will instantly kill you.
Yeah.
So he said the DMs have other character sheets ready for you.
Right. It's like choose between door number 1 or door number 2, and one of these doors will kill you. And good luck.
That's like, I remember when Tomb of Annihilation was kind of first announced, they had Force Grey, which was a D&D show run through Wizards of the Coast. I think it was only a couple episodes. Mm-hmm. Like Matt Mercer was on it. He ran it. Deborah Ann Wool was on it. What's his name? Joe Manganiello was on it. Like a bunch of people were on it. And one of the characters instantly died on a trap, and then he was just off the show. His character died. So
shit.
Yeah, I don't. It was crazy. Like I remember watching that episode, and he's like, "Yeah, you saw this trap," and he's like,
"I'm at least nice enough to just be like, yeah, it's cool, just a little new character."
I kind of wonder if maybe he had other schedule conflicts, something. I don't know, but he was.
You think they killed him off?
I don't know, maybe, but his character, it was just the floor and the ceiling collapsed on him. They came up like a fucking what was thwomps?
A floor ceiling sandwich?
Sort of, yeah. Like a thwomp in Maryland.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, and his leg was coming out, so someone tried to pull his leg to get him out, and the leg just attached. And when it separated, he was just goo. It's he's dead. And they're like, no death saves? No, he's just dead. And it's
damn.
Oh, shit. And it was funny because he's just getting up.
See how you have that reaction though? That's how cool it is when you don't have the death save. You're just oh my god, that just happened. Where you just have that visceral gut punch. You know what I mean? If it's death around every corner, I get how that can sometimes be numbing too. But that you have that gut punch in you, that's really interesting to me.
I also think too that it would help because there's really no way, there's no mechanic for suspense. So having death be around every corner, but not something that's around literally every corner, it is suspenseful. Because let's say for instance, I've been in dungeons and the rogue or someone finds a trap and it's it's a trap. What 1d6 damage.
Spooky.
Ooh, arrow trap. But if someone triggers it, all of a sudden
this is a fake door.
Yeah, but all of a sudden someone triggers it and they're fucking dead. Mm-hmm. Every time you see a trap, and you're like, fuck, what is that trap? What does it do? And that now you're searching around okay, there's nozzles here and there. Is it fire? What is that? And it's just I agree.
It is possible that it can have the adverse effect, and then suddenly your players start metagaming because now they're terrified of dying, and so anytime that someone's just oh yes, thank you, here's your treasure by the way, and then they start hacking the treasure chest apart because they're scared of mimics.
Hey, I wouldn't even call that metagaming. That's just the character. And I think it's hilarious if they're scared of mimics, so they're hacking and the person's what are you doing?
Take the treasure.
It's just treasure. Stop it. Yeah.
And then they get eaten anyway.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. How long have we been talking?
Where are we coming up on now? I'm sorry. We're at an hour 20. We were goofing off for 10 minutes or something.
Why don't we wrap up for a little bit and then we can play some SNES for a bit.
Ooh, play a little Castle. I got you hooked on Castlevania, huh?
Never fear, Southern Belmont is here.
Yeah, I love. I'm sure anybody listening to this, if you don't know who Starbomb are, or Ninja Sex Party, or Ego Raptor, Danny Sexbang, you need to find out because Crashervania is. That's all I hum now when I play Castlevania.
Right, so I guess we can start wrapping up a bit. So I know in the very beginning we talked about our one-shots. We'll say them again. So coming this October, probably closer to Halloween, no official release date yet, is Volume 1 of the New Blood Anthology, which will feature Tyler's one-shot, Shrine of
Fallen Snow.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of survival or whatever, and then it's kind of like Predator but in the snow.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Snow Predator.
And
then in November, maybe closer to Thanksgiving, not sure, will be Volume 2, which will feature my one-shot, Thicker Than Water, with the subtitle Go to Hell, which I'm so happy to get to use that. Other than that, any other updates? I mean, I've been getting some serious work done on Steel Horizons, which I know I've been radio silent about recently. But I'm still working on that. I've
mostly just been working on this. I know I'm excited about Camaros, but I guess that'll be like the next thing.
Which one's Camaros?
Camaros. Oh, sorry. Is I don't know. Camaros is Many Fates.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I remember it as Many Fates. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so we have that. We have.
I like the name Camaros. Either way, it really is kind of good.
Yeah, so Many Fates is a game idea Tyler has written up, which is on our website, on our blog post.
Yeah.
Also, I know we talked briefly about a supplement based around subclasses and mechanics for running crime families. I am still working on that.
Oh, yeah. For the family.
For the family. Yeah, so we are still working on that. That's still in the development phase.
I've got some cons coming up that we'll be at. I'll be at RetroCon in Pennsylvania. Near Philadelphia. We've got I don't know if they're talking about it, but like Comic-Con, I don't know if they're supposed to be talking about it or something. Comic-Con for kids is the thing that's coming up too.
Really?
Yeah, that's going to be a thing. I think that's from like iHeartRadio and whatnot. So that you should probably check out with that. And then PAX Unplugged.
Oh my god!
It's never too early to start talking about PAX Unplugged.
I already in my Twitter bio I have coming soon to PAX Unplugged. Like I love PAX Unplugged. So yeah,
that's not until December 4th?
Like the first weekend in December, December 3rd. Yeah. So I cannot wait for PAX Unplugged. I really hope for our listeners out there, I hope to see some of you guys at PAX Unplugged if you can make it. It is a amazing.
We'll definitely be on the floor.
We will be on the floor. We have applied for a panel. So long shot.
Man. Maybe we could,
put it out
get
there,
some kind of petition together or something.
Put it out there in the universe. Yeah, we have applied for a panel for a live episode of
Wanderers
Rest at PAX Unplugged, which would be
because maybe they want new creators type of thing or something, or maybe they'll just be like this is some bullshit slot nobody wants and it's at 3 a.m. so we'll just give it to these fucking guys. Like, who knows?
Maybe they'll be like, you know what tabletop needs? 2 more straight white guys. That's what it is.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of what's coming up. I think I showed Tyler a cover I was working on. For some reason, I'm having a lot of fun designing covers for things, so that's my problem.
Yeah, should you have gone into graphic design or something?
No,
you just love.
I wish. Love making covers. I love making covers. So yeah, I have 2 possible.
We need to commission more artwork. That's the thing, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so if you want to help us commission more art, you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/OnePillGames.
You didn't break levels there.
PIL Games. So yeah, we've mentioned this previously before. Any money we make through our products being sold on DM's Guild,
we're not making a profit right now. So
we're literally not. No matter how much money we make, it will never really be considered a profit because we invest everything directly back into our stuff. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, any money, I think you have, in a weird way, we both have our own separate DM Guilds accounts. So, any money I make from products, I use it to buy other products on DM's Guild. Because I obviously want to share the love.
Yeah. All I'm thinking about, if we make anything from New Bloods or whatever, all I'm thinking about is, how I can reinvest that into artwork and...
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then our Patreon, any money, we have the goals up on our Patreon. I think if we ever hit $50 a month, we could commission a smaller picture. $100 a month would probably help us get a bigger one. Like a full page. Yeah. But yeah, any money we make, we do not pay ourselves at all. Everything goes to commissioning art. Everything goes to...
Wandering Pilgrim Games gets paid first.
Exactly, yeah. I think, honestly, the idea of us personally making money is such a long shot for me. Like, I'm not even thinking about that. But yeah, I like being upfront with everybody and letting them know that, like, any money we make is not going to us. It's going to the products. But then...
So if you like what we're doing, obviously, that's how you support it.
Yeah, support us through Patreon. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at WanPil Games, WANPIL Games. We have a Facebook page as well. Obviously, search Wandering Pilgrim Games. We have our website, wanderingpilgrimgames.squarespace.com. Obviously, the website is probably the best place to find all the links in one place. Also, it'll give you links to where you can find all the episodes of our podcast. As of right now, you can find us on Spotify, Libsyn, Stitcher, and YouTube. And possibly more to come. We're still working that out. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for right now. Do you have anything else to...
do you want to... I'm sorry. I really think you should bring up Till Death Save Do Us Part.
Oh, okay. I want to put this out in the world, because now if I say it, someone may have to... So my idea...
If you say it, it'll become true.
Yeah, so my idea is my wife... my wife and I have played D&D with Tyler and a couple of the people for... Mm-hmm. We talked about it like 4 years now. Yeah, so I had an idea to do a one-on-one game with my wife. Just like 45 minutes to an hour long sessions. Just me DMing for her and calling it Till Death Save Do Us Part, because, we're married. It's a joke. So I'm putting it out there. She is a little hesitant to the idea right now, but
there's just something so sweet about, like, the idea of that, like, one-on-one game between a couple, or even what I think could also work is if you are both the players and you're just playing a 2-person game with another dungeon master, like probably like the
possibly.
Like,
I mean, I think I hear her moving around upstairs. So if she wants to come down and weigh in on this issue, I don't think she's going to come down. She does not.
She's trying to pretend that she doesn't exist.
I think she's trying to pretend that she doesn't exist. We hear her up there. So if you want to see episodes of Till Death Save Do Us Part, please tweet us.
We're putting it up on Twitter right now.
Putting it up on Twitter. We're going to. Please respond, and I will show it to my wife, and legally she will be contracted, and she will have to legally be in this show. So there's that. All right, I'm still waiting for her to come down and give me a dirty look, but she has not done so, which means she silently agrees. Perfect. Okay, yeah, so other than that, I think we've given you all the stuff we need to know. As always, make sure you can follow us on all our social meds sites.
Social meds.
Go to the website, read all of our nice blog posts. And stay tuned for all of our new updates. So unless we have anything else...
It's an exciting time to be a wanderer.
It is. And as always,
keep
wandering.